Welcome, everyone, to the June Spenard Community Council meeting. My name is Meg. I am the president. Here in this room, those in the room will be able to see we have our Vice President, Matt, over here. We have our Secretary, Sarah, over in that corner. Next to Sarah, we have Auditor Margaret. Across from her, another auditor also named Margaret, but Peggy. And then we have our treasurer, Julie, across from me, and Irene is traveling. Thank you guys for helping being here and setting up the meeting. So we can get the meeting started. I'm going to ask for someone to approve the consent agenda, which is our minutes from the previous meeting, as well as our agenda tonight, which, if you haven't seen it, is up at that front table. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda? Move to approve by Peggy. Do we have a second? Second by Michelle. Wonderful. All right. So we are going to start with our brief reports. We did have a request with Megan from the airport to go first, as she has a flight to get to or drop someone off to. Oh, and I should say, for folks that are speaking, I'll ask you to come up to the mic so folks can see you, and then I will back away slowly. There is a tangle of cords up here. I will ask everyone to be very cautious of the cords, also reminding myself to be cautious of the cords. So thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Peters. I am the communications coordinator for the Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. I try and come to these meetings as often as possible to give updates on things that the airport feels is important for the community to know about. And then I also take questions. If I do not have immediate answers, I do go back to the airport. I find the answers out, and then I send them back to the community council president. So I will take questions. This month, there's a couple of things that have happened. We started off on our master plan. The master plan usually happens every 7 to 10 years. It's been about 10 years since our last master plan that's been kicked off. Every single community council surrounding the airport, which you guys are one of them, has a representative for the master plan meetings and planning sessions. So any kind of concerns that you have, please meet with your coordinator for your neighborhood to bring those concerns back into those direct meetings. We want the community's feedback. We want people to be a part of it. There is a virtual public meeting available through June 13th on a website that is www.ancmpu.com, and you can go there. It's a virtual meeting. It also allows you to submit comments through that. We really do look forward to people participating in that, because it does really help out with the future of the airport and the economic growth of Anchorage, and responsibly planning to be good neighbors as well. The South Terminal parking garage, I don't know if you've noticed or not that half of it's been closed down for a while. That is going to continue to be closed down through the remainder of the summer. We're thinking it'll probably reopen sometime in October. That parking garage has not received any maintenance on it since it was built about 50 years ago. So it is very crucial that they do the maintenance to keep it safe and serving the community for years to come. So that's why parking is a little bit challenging, and it's probably why you also heard the advertisements on the radios letting people know the advertisements are going from the valley all the way down to the Kenai Peninsula. That way nobody's caught off guard when they need to drive up and try and catch one of their flights, and then they can't find parking space. We don't want that. We want people talking about it. We do know it's inconvenient, but it is necessary. So we do appreciate the public's patience with that. Last summer, there was a project that revitalized the Terminal Loop Road underneath that bridge. Well, even before we did that revitalization, we had people driving RVs under there and hitting the roof. Last year, that gap shortened for the maximum height requirements. And so now any vehicle that is over 10 foot 6 inches is not going to like going under that bridge. Whenever anybody tops out their RV on that bridge, it is very expensive for their RV, and they also risk damaging critical infrastructure at the airport. We do have flashing signs, multiple notifications to people to turn off beforehand. If you have an RV or you have a vehicle, you do not know how tall it is, please consider taking the commercial curb instead of trying to test your luck going under that bridge, or even go on the arrivals to pick somebody up. That's also an option. Lake Hood, Seaplane Base, summer operations are in full swing. It's probably a little bit louder now that it's summertime and everyone's really excited to get in those planes and take off and explore Alaska. Pets are constantly being walked around the lake. We really encourage people to mind their pets, keep them on a leash. All aircraft have the right of way, and anytime a loose pet is running around the airport is not a good situation for pilots or a pet or their human. So please keep your dogs, pets, anything on a leash. Out for bid is the land lease that is commonly referred to as the K lot, which does butt up back to Turnagain, close to the Spenard area where the gravel strip is for Lake Hood. There is a section of land that people are trying to compete to put up their own hangars and other things. There is an online public notice for that. There is a link in the update that I did send to the community council meeting, so you can find that on their page. I also have printed out copies over here that have the link in it. Anybody is able to request an invitation to bid packet. It is public information. It is free. However, we do need to track anybody getting those, because if there's any changes to the packet, we have to send out notifications to anybody that receives the packet. So if you would like to have the specific details for that land lease that's commonly referred to as the K lot, you can email Taylor Beardsley at alaska.gov, taylor.beardsley@alaska.gov. His name, his phone number, and also, again, the online public notice is in the packet over there. Anyone can request it. It is free. It just has to be tracked so we can appropriately update people if there's any amendments or anything that changes with that invitation to bid. There's a very specific process with that, and we have to follow it very closely. I'm sure you've all noticed that the moose have been having babies and wildlife are out. Cow moose are very protective of their babies. We are asking people to be very cognizant when they are on airport property, whether it's in a parking lot or on a trail or anywhere. The moose tend to go where they want, so please keep your head on a swivel if you're going to be out and about. There are going to be some road construction projects going on around Lake Hood. The aircraft and lakeshore drives, there's a big section of those in July and August that are going to be under construction. There will be detours set up. There's also going to be a section from West Northern Lights Boulevard down toward Rockwell Avenue that's also going to have some rehabilitation. We'll have more details on that next month, but this is just a heads up that those things are coming July, August timeframe. It's all dependent on weather. We all know how construction goes in the summer.
Can we finish my questions?
Yep, absolutely. Those were the main points. Yes, ma'am. I don't think that anything is actually going to be cut off. I think they're just going to have barricades up and then like moving people around it. And the construction periods for each of the projects are, I believe, slated for about 2 weeks each. So I do not believe that section is going to be blocked off. I think it'll be accessible from the public the whole time. I will follow up with that though and get back to Meg. Sir.
My name is Bob. I just wanted to clarify that I am the Spenard Community Council representative.
Oh, good. That's the one you want to talk to. Yeah.
The committee and then
And every single meeting will be public noticed ahead of time. They are not set in stone now when there will be, but as soon as they are set, we will be getting that information out to everybody. Anybody else? You guys are going easy on me. Come on. All right, I'll turn it over back to you, Meg. Thank you guys so much for having me here. I always appreciate the dialogue.
Hold on one second. I realized I meant to change speaker view. Alrighty, so next up on our agenda is we have an assembly update from Anna Brawley is here. Thank you so much, Anna, for being here. And I forgot to give folks time. Let's see. So Anna, if you could plan to spend 10 minutes, including questions, that would be wonderful. And I'll help keep track of time as well.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here in the Midtown part of Spenard. So I know Spenard is a neighborhood. You guys have multiple representatives. So I'm representing folks west of Minnesota Boulevard. But I would like to say, you know, the assembly represents everybody. So please feel free to reach out to me and I'll help connect you with the right person and depending on the issue. So we are busy, as you know, and there's a lot of big issues in this community, as you know. So I'm going to talk about 3 of them briefly, and then I want to leave time for questions. So the first one is housing. I think this community council has worked for a long time to advocate for housing, and I appreciate that. I think we know that we have a citywide housing issue. And so one thing the assembly is working on is how, within our ability, how can we make it easier to build housing, to increase housing in the city and have high quality housing as well. So one thing that we did in the past month is we had a housing retreat. So that was on Friday, May 19th. It was open to the public. We had a lot of great information. I know a lot of it is things that have been talked about in the past, but me and the other 4 new members found it helpful to really get a good understanding of the issues. So a lot of what we focused on really was the impediments to building, to construction. So we know it's expensive to build. There's a lot of issues with upgrading existing housing. And then we also have kind of the issue in our housing market of what somebody called musical chairs. So if you imagine, we don't build a lot of housing, so we're not adding chairs to the game, right? But then as we have people moving here or folks just looking for other housing, you know, there's not a lot of places that, there's not enough housing to go around. And so if you imagine, if we're not adding those chairs to the game, then we just have people competing more and more over the few units we have. And then of course, some of them get taken off the market, right? They're too old, they get torn down, they turn into Airbnbs, you know, so we're looking at how to change that game. Basically, we need to add chairs. We need to make it possible for people to live in our community. So we're looking at ways to do that, whether it's zoning changes, looking at ways we can help with the cost. You know, a lot of different solutions there. So I can go into specifics, but I'll leave it there. That we know that's a huge priority and the assembly is working on it. The next one is homelessness. Again, you know, related to housing. If you can't afford a house, you can't pay half your rent. So, so homelessness is a big issue in our community. It has been increasing, and at the same time, we are making progress. We're converting hotels to housing units, including, you know, in my neighborhood in Turnagain and Spenard, we're doing things like dealing with camping. We're talking about where we can have year-round shelter, and again, we're really trying to put the focus on where it needs to be, which is housing. But 2 things that we did at our meeting last night. One is we passed a resolution to allow or to recommend that the administration allow a camp at 40th and Denali. So just south of Cuddy Park, the old National Archives site. Currently that area is being cleared because there's a festival coming up in a couple weekends. And so it wouldn't be occupied until July. And then there was also, of course, logistics to work out in terms of bathrooms, and there'd be a limited number of folks allowed on the site. Need to think about things like security, water, but essentially we passed a resolution that suggests to the administration that they need to stand that up this summer to allow a safe place for folks to go. So we know that's not going to be the full solution. I want to also thank, there was a community task force who really worked on thinking bigger about that issue of where we could allow camping even on a short-term basis across our community. So they had a lot of great work. They had many meetings. We ultimately did not pass the version that they recommended that had multiple campsites. You probably saw in the news, a lot of folks were focused on that. But I think it's a step, and I think it's not intended to be the solution. Again, housing is the number one, and making sure we have services for folks is really where we need to focus. But in the meantime, you know, we're going to have what we have right now, which is folks camping out on our trails and our parks. And I know that that's frustrating to people, and I'm sure it's frustrating to the folks who are out there camping and would rather have something better, but you know, we're trying to do the best we can. The other things that we took up at the meeting were the navigation center. So I know that's been a hot topic for a couple of years now. The large site proposed at Tudor and Elmore. And I wanted to really make sure that the public understands the feasibility and the full cost of that project. And so I introduced a version that suggested not just that we put 7 million toward it, but that we put 11 million toward it. And that wasn't because I thought that that was a feasible idea, but I really wanted to look back and say, is this something we can afford? Is this something that has a real operating plan that I haven't seen brought forward? And so it was really for discussion. And I think it's important for the public to evaluate if that's a good use of our money and if we believe that it is feasible to build. I personally do not feel that it's feasible to build. And so I wanted to make sure that we at least look back to what's been proposed and that we have a discussion in those terms. So we postponed that item. It's going to be coming back on June 20th. But again, I really hope we can have a conversation about, you know, whether it's feasible to build that or not. And I've come to conclusions based on the numbers I've seen, but I encourage folks to look at that and to read the memo. And finally, we are still talking about shelter. So again, you know, housing is the solution to homelessness. But in the meantime, we also need safe places for people to go. That's everyone from maybe your house burns down, or maybe you get kicked out, you're a kid and you get kicked out of the house, you know, you don't really have a place to sleep. We do have shelters in town. We have examples of well-run shelter in town. And we also have some examples of badly run shelter. I think folks were frustrated by the Sullivan, especially those who were staying in it. Frustrated with the way Brother Francis shelter had impacts on the neighborhood. I think it's gotten a lot better there because of some changes they've made, but I think, you know, it's tough because our community does have both good and bad examples of shelter, and that's going to make it difficult to move forward with the plans that we need to make. But I think Assemblymember Rivera is really leading the charge on that, leading a community process to do what's called the clean slate strategy, meaning really stepping back and saying, what does a well-run shelter look like? What do we want to see in our shelter? What do we think is safe for people living in that shelter temporarily, as well as safe for the neighborhoods? And then we'll get to the next step, which is really talking about what are locations across the city that are possible locations for shelter, and using those criteria to really evaluate, again, each of those locations for what's feasible. And so those meetings have begun this past weekend. There was a few town halls talking about criteria. There's a whole set of meetings coming up. And I would really encourage folks again to look at our website. The Assembly website has a lot of great information about the work that we're doing, about upcoming meetings. It can link to recordings of meetings if you missed them, but you want to watch them online. And generally is a great source of information about the issues that we're working on. And then finally, I'll just briefly touch on another thing that we heard at our meeting last night, but we'll be taking up again at our, I think it's our July 11th meeting. It's not for another month, is an ordinance that we're calling our bike equity ordinance. So it does a few things. So it suggests, or it puts into code guidelines for how you safely build bike infrastructure. So imagine someday, you know, we could have a bike lane that has its own bike stop and start signals. You know, other cities have this. We could have protected bike lanes. We could have cycle tracks, you know, all these things that a lot of other places are building. We want to make sure that when we have the opportunity to do that, we have it in code already. And the other flip side of it is there's a lot of laws on the books that we really don't enforce. For example, you know, did you know that you're legally required to have lighting on your bike? And I think it's a good idea. It's certainly safe. The question is, should we be ticketing people if they don't have it, especially if maybe they can't afford it, or maybe it fell off a few blocks ago because the bike's not in the best shape. So really asking, you know, if we really need those things on the books and if they're doing what they're supposed to. And so we'll be having a work session on that next Friday, the 16th. The public's always invited to those. We're going to have a presentation about what it means. We're going to talk about technical terms like vulnerable road user, which is a Department of Transportation term, but really is meant to reflect folks on bikes, folks walking, anybody who's not in a car who's using our streets and sidewalks. And so I'm really looking to make our city safer, focusing on design and not just punishing people, and to be able to really, you know, make sure that we're a good city for biking, which I know Spenard certainly can use improvements in that regard. So with that, I'll pause. I know there's a lot of things going on, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Years ago, we had 4,000. Now we're 180,000. We had houses 10 years ago for almost 364,000. What happened to all the housing that we don't have enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple answers. One is, I believe we had about 310,000 in Anchorage proper. So we lost about 20,000 people, more or less. There's a few different things going on. One is that our housing stock is aging. So, you know, there's houses that aren't safe to occupy anymore. There's mobile homes maybe that aren't safe to occupy. So some of what happened is those units, you know, that maybe somebody used to live in, you can't anymore. Another factor is that we have smaller households, and that's a national trend. So we have more folks living alone. We have folks, you know, maybe adult kids moving out of the house and starting their own household. Seniors and elders, you know, maybe there's just one person left in the household. And so that's really, even though we have maybe a smaller population, we have a higher need for housing units because we have fewer people living in each of those units. And then the third factor, which we don't really fully understand the impacts of, but we know it is impactful, is short-term rentals. So more and more housing units, especially rentals, are flipping over to become short-term rentals. So somebody cannot live in one of those year-round anymore. So we don't have a good handle on how many of those are. It's pretty shocking to know that in Girdwood, one count was that about 37% of their housing units have turned into short-term rentals or are short-term rentals. And they're, you know, a resort community. They have different pressures than our city as a whole. But we know that our number in Anchorage as a whole is not zero. And so I think that's another factor really impacting our housing market.
First, I want to say, I don't know how the thing came out about the project, so to satisfy that lawsuit that he's bringing against her. I'm gonna say, don't reward this person for doing exactly 20 years ago, which she did the same thing for those schools. And I would really hate to see us reward him for that, but if we do this is more complicated. If you do end up doing something like that plan, maybe smaller, to not award it to him, because he's obviously a bad player. You know, because he knew the rules and he broke them. You know, he went along with them. The other thing I wanted to say is kind of like to Phil. We used to have a huge trailer park where right now it's North Slope Borough, that campus there. They took out 225 trailers. So that was a lot of housing loss in just that one project. They were supposed to replace that. That was the agreement between Spinelli and the Muni and everything, and that never happened. So things like that happen that take out a lot of housing that has never been in place. So, sorry, I was just.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Peggy. And that's good historical context, because I know in Spenard in particular, there's a lot of places where there used to be housing, you know, 30, 40 years ago, and it's been taken out, maybe replaced with businesses or other things that are good uses, but that's the trade-off. As far as the Hickle settlement, so we did not take that up at our meeting. We actually have a special meeting scheduled also for Friday on 16th to discuss that settlement. And so I'm actually learning about it. So I've certainly read what others have read in the paper. And we did get a very brief overview of it. You know, the current lawsuit that's out there. And so I don't know all the facts yet, but I am certainly, you know, not just going to jump into a settlement just because. And I really want to understand that. I also know there was work done. And so part of my thinking too is, you know, granted, it should not have happened, but it's also a bad precedent if the municipality does not pay the work that we engage. So that's the tricky thing, right? Is that it wasn't approved, the money was not approved, but the work was done. And there were materials purchased. So I think the question is, how do we recoup as much as we can? So we're going to take that up next week.
Was the work that was performed approved?
So
That's a huge problem. If they were doing the work, not only was the money not approved, but the work wasn't.
And that's one of the things I want to untangle, because supposedly there were, I guess, work packages or that, you know, specific scopes of work that were approved by somebody at the municipality. We believe it's Saxton Shearer, who is not there anymore. And so someone authorized something, right? And so that's what we're trying to figure out. And then also what what the municipality's responsibility is. But I agree that I think there's a lot of questions, and certainly this was not done the way that it should be done.
The question coming through that I see on the chat was a special session on the 16th.
Yes, it's scheduled for Friday, the 16th. Yeah, thank you. And again, I know you guys aren't meeting over the summer, but please feel free to reach out to me or any of my colleagues. We're happy to chat. And then, of course, our work continues all year, so we'll be out there doing the work. Thank you.
Right, up next, we have Officer Edgar Cintron joining us tonight. You coming up to the mic, and we'll have about 10 minutes for an update or to answer questions.
Howdy. Complete disclosure, this is the first time I'm doing this, so yeah, thank you. I know I have some numbers and things to share, but I guess maybe I could just open up to questions and then share numbers later. I mean, it's more of a give you numbers on like types of crime in the area and things like that, or I can just answer questions to start off with and then fill any time with numbers and stuff, so. Yeah. Yeah.
Years ago, there was talk about not allowing these intended windows. And as somebody who likes to bike ride and walk, it's really hard when somebody is drifted over, you know, pedestrian crosswalk, and you can't see them.
Yeah, eye contact is important. It is.
It's
No, it is, so we can ticket, if there's, depends on how you talk about the numbers. So it's like you have to have 35% is like the limit, right? So you have to have 70% or 65% visibility through the tints. So we have our traffic team, they have special equipment to put onto the windows that essentially throws a beam of light. And if it's not at that 35%, they could get a ticket for it. And then it's a correctable ticket. So they have to like show that they've completed the work and the tint's no longer there, or they just paid a ticket. Unfortunately, it'd be pretty awesome if we could just say, hey, let's take them off now, right? While we're doing a traffic stop, but unfortunately that's not something we can do. But it is still a tickable offense. So yeah, my wife also is a big, biker, and she hates when she can't make eye contact with people because she wants to know like, hey, can I go? So completely understand that concern. So, yeah.
So definitely that, yes. I live on 30th, which has recently become part of the Midtown corridor, so there's no on-street parking anymore, which is a change. It's a great change, I think, because now we have bike lanes. I haven't really seen it be a problem, but it's early days. There are some people occasionally parking for short periods of time. Don't really want to be like the neighborhood. Is there going to be some sort of like short-term warnings or something to kind of learn the new? I mean, there are signs, but
Yeah.
some people think that the no parking bike lane.
Yeah. Maybe the wording's weird. Yeah. As far as I don't know is really the answer as far as like warnings go. I could ticket it, right? I could, try to get it towed if it becomes an issue. Like those are things that I could do as a police officer. So like, I know you might not want to be, but that might be something that like you can help out with as well as a community member, and just call us, let us know. We might not be out there within seconds, right? But like, we'll get out there and try to get a ticket on that car. Because at the end of the day, right, if there is something posted, I could ticket it. So if it says no parking, then I can either get it towed or at least throw a ticket on there, and that could be the warning, right? Like, hey, like you kind of got away with some towing fees and stuff, but here's the ticket, and go that route. So for the most part, we don't like to tow parked cars unless it's, pretty like it's in front of it's creating a hazard, right? So, and at the end of the day, if it's become that much of a hazard where the same car is parked in the same spot every single day, right? And we have to keep going out, keep ticketing and keep ticketing. We could eventually do know what DEQ stands for, but it's a DEQ tow where it's essentially creating a hazard, right? Which in this case would be for bicyclists. So we can take their car and they could still get it back and everything, but they'll have to pay all the fees. So yeah. No problem. Anyone else? One thing that I would like to throw out there, because 311, not emergency number, 911 for emergencies. I know that's one thing that I normally have to say to a lot of people, just because some people don't know, right? So if you feel like your life is in danger, if you feel like someone else's life is in danger, that's a 911 call. If you're calling for a parking issue, or you're calling because you hear something down the street or something like that, that's a 311 call. I probably can't tell you exactly why, other than like the obvious, right? If someone's trying to call 911 and they actually have an emergency and all the 911 lines are tied up, that's obviously an issue. But I'm sure that dispatch could probably tell you a little bit more as to why they would prefer people calling 311 instead of 911 if it's truly not an emergency. So, yeah.
Is there any specific or anywhere that's particularly troublesome?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna be careful how I answer this question, right? Because every part, right? Like, so I'm a fairly newer officer, if you will. So I've gotten the chance to work a lot of different areas in Anchorage. I'm starting to get enough seniority to where I get to work Spenard more often, because I prefer working in Spenard and Midtown and Turnagain. Every part of town is going to have its bad parts, right? So by no means do I mean that this is only a Spenard issue, right? With that being said, I mean, there are a few areas of town for sure. It just depends on what we're talking about, right? If we're talking about drug issues, for sure, we know the areas where there's drug issues. If we're talking about homeless people becoming aggressive and assaultive, like we know what part of town that's going to happen in. I could kind of give you bad areas of town for different things. So I wouldn't really know how to completely answer that question without like getting into the weeds of like what crimes are being committed in what part of Spenard, if you know what I mean. So yeah. Yeah.
So the camps that are in between Spenard and Northwood seem to be extra aggressive.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
And
On the trails on the right. Yeah.
The street trail.
Yeah.
The gym.
Yeah.
They seem to be like, they're not desperate people camping. They're something else.
Yeah. And that's an issue, right? Just like everything else in life, right? Like there's going to be people that do bad things and people that do good things or don't do bad things, right? Same thing with the homeless community, right? Like you're going to have two separate groups of homeless communities. One that they're just truly, they're having a hard time. They're, others, normally the more aggressive ones become like a drug issue, right? Like they're, chasing the next high or whatever the case may be. And they tend to be the more aggressive ones because they're trying to get money for the next high, right? They're trying to, whatever the case may be. The biggest thing is report it, right? If you come across an aggressive person on the trail, right? Report. It stinks because like sometimes, I'm sure some people are like, oh, hey, we got to go to this call. But I personally love these calls because then that's really what community policing is, right? Me going out and talking to these people and telling them like, hey, people are calling, like you need to like calm it down, right? Because then we can start giving warnings, right? We might not be able to arrest them right on the spot, but if they continue to do the same thing over and over again, eventually they're gonna, people are going to jail now too, right? Now it's like post-COVID, if you will, right? So now like the jail, like we're being able to take people and giving them bail as opposed to what it used to be where we're just giving them a piece of paper and saying, hey, here's a court date, right? So now people are starting to realize like, oh, if I break the law, I'm probably going to jail and having to pay money that I don't have or money that I could be using for something else, right? So people are starting to realize that and they're becoming a little bit more like worried about the cops being called. So please, like, if you guys come across that, like, call us, right? Again, same thing. If your life's in danger, 911. If it's not, 311, just let us know where it happened and we can go out and talk to people and have a conversation as to why they're being aggressive, right? So make sure you also articulate what aggressive means. Don't just say aggressive, because that could also up our response, right? If they're chasing people with a baseball bat, right, that's probably going to be a 911 call. So therefore, we're going to come out a lot sooner. Whereas if you just say aggressive, we're going to be like, well, maybe they just yelled at you, right? So articulate what's going on, and we'll be out sooner rather than later. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so it's there's, I'll get back to you on the law, right? Because I would have to look that up. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, right? Because we're also in a public like trail, right? So people could like hang out. Now, if they're doing something that most likely they shouldn't be doing, though, that's where you might have that pool of, right? Like if you see them smoking, right? If you see alcohol, right? These are things that are for sure, right? You can't be drinking in public, you can't be smoking weed in public, like, right? Or any other drug, right? So maybe the loitering might not be, but what they're doing might be, right? So make sure you let us know and we can come out. Again, it all depends how busy we are, right? Because like there's days that, there's like 30 calls holding. So something like that, we might take a while to get to. But still let us know, because if it's not busy, we can be out there within minutes. So yeah, again, the articulation, let us know what's going on. And yeah.
The place that he's talking about, that actually is private property.
Oh, is it?
It
Okay.
is,
Yeah.
all of it is.
Who owns it?
It's outfit out of Los Angeles, but they're supposed to have a standing order with the police department that anybody who's on that campus does that.
Okay.
And this is that I talked to the manager of the property. That's
Okay.
and
I'm just typing down because I didn't know that. I thought it was public.
Last July.
Okay.
And we'll let for a while with that. But on both sides of the trail, even though the parks are side, Fish Creek, all of that is on private property.
I will for sure look into that, because if it is, and if that's the case, then yeah, we could start telling people, hey, you got to go, right? So again, I didn't know that, so I will for sure get with. Do you know who owns it?
I don't know their names. It's somebody. I know that. It's Mike Brown from the Park and Rec.
Officer Corral?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because he's with our CAP team. I will talk to him, Officer Corral, and I will get more information about that, because if he knows about it, then I'm sure their CAP team kind of does all that, right? They're the ones kind of also doing everything over at Cuddy Family Park. So I will talk to him and get more information, because if that's the case, we could also throw that out to patrol, and even then that gives us more power to do stuff, if you will. So. Anyone?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you all for having me. Yeah.
Yes, but not last. Yes. All right, wonderful. So up next, we have our own Sarah to revisit the decision topic we had last month, which was the CIP priorities. So welcome Sarah up here.
Hello, welcome everybody. I apologize that I don't have a copy of this next agenda item, and I can't for the life of me figure out how to make it happen on the screen. We are revisiting the 2024 Spenard Capital Improvement Program priorities. We had that list of 25 priorities that was the result of the survey that we sent out. And someone noticed at our last meeting that item 3 and item 5 looked very similar, and were they maybe the same project? Item 3 is Spenard Road Rehabilitation, Benson to Minnesota. Item number 5 is Spenard Road Reconstruction Phase 3, 30th Avenue to Northwood Drive. They overlap. Are they the same? Should we vote on this list as is? So we tabled so I could look into it some more. So what I could figure out, and I have no ego in this, so if someone is more in tune with this project, please let me know. They were kind of two projects that were sort of happening at the same time, but yes, now we are looking at Spenard Road Rehabilitation. That's in progress, that's happening. So we don't really need number 5. I'm looking at you, Lindsay. Am I right there? Somebody was in this meeting. So that is what I could find when I was doing my research, was that, yes, they were essentially the same thing, promoted in different ways, happening at similar times. And then ultimately, Spenard Road Rehabilitation, Benson to Minnesota is what is happening. Yes, Lindsay.
Well, I don't have this to look at, but the project going all the way to Northwood is the next. So it's.
From 30th to Northwood?
No, it should be Minnesota. Okay. So it could have just been a typo or something.
That's possible.
Let's amend it to say Minnesota.
I love it. We can do that too. Are there any objections to amending item number 5 to read Spenard Road Reconstruction Phase 3, Minnesota to Northwood? No? Excellent.
Wait, is it 3? Is it? The numbers don't matter, don't worry. Okay. I just feel like these projects get messed up and not happen. They won't get, okay. We won't.
Should we also amend it to be Spenard Road Reconstruction, Minnesota to Northwood, and take out the 3? Just so nobody's, again, confused when this shows up later. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the 2024 Spenard Capital? Do I get to say that, or is that you, Meg? Okay, I'm gonna say it. Do I have a motion to approve the 2024 Spenard Capital Improvement Program priorities as amended? So item number 5 reads Spenard Road Reconstruction, Minnesota to Northwood Drive. Okay, thank you. Margaret, can you remember that so I can write it down in the minutes? Do we vote? Is there further discussion?
Vote on it, and I think we'll, what we'll do is we'll have folks in the room raise hands, if voting members online can also use the raise hand feature.
Yes, in case folks can't hear, unless it's through the microphone, what we're gonna do is we're gonna call for a vote. So we're gonna do all in favor, and then folks online, if you want to turn your cameras on and raise your hand or use your emoji hand, however you want to vote aye, if that is your vote. I am calling for all of those who approve, including those online.
Technically, you make the motion.
I did, yeah.
You did.
I counted 18. I got 19.
I got 19.
Okay, all right, 19.
19.
19 approved. All those opposed, including folks online. Two online opposed? Okay.
The thumbs up means the same.
Okay. Passes. Thank you. We'll move on.
All right, what I was doing when I was texting was figuring out, wait, how are we doing online voting tonight? Because we did not talk about that before the meeting. So thank you guys for your patience as we fumbled through that. We figured with not many folks online, we could ask for raise of hands rather than creating another Google form. All right, so on to our second decision topic. I'm going to invite Mr. Long Lamb to come up, and I will actually share my screen because I realized that I didn't get this posted on the website like I had intended to. Oops, that's not right. Okay. Okay. Oops, and then I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, great. Excellent. Okay. Just a brief intro of what we have here is this is sort of a template memorandum of understanding that we use the same kind of template with new liquor licenses in our area, and then they fill in other details. But thank you so much for being here, and we'll allow you to introduce yourself and walk through any extra details you put here, and maybe take time for questions, and then we could go to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Hello, everyone. So I believe this is just a general formality with any package stores, also known as liquor stores, or any cannabis dispensaries and things of that nature. And I won't bore you too much. I know this will probably post it on the Spenard Community Council website so everybody can read this, but it's generally, the basic agreement is, I want to stress that it truly is any issues arising from the store operating and things of that nature. I plan on attending every single meeting here and open to any questions, and definitely my personal number is going to be out there for any concerns or questions that has to do with the store. But we're essentially two gentlemen, both locals, who honestly found a passion for spirits and whiskey as a whole, and where our mission statement with creating a package store in Spenard was truly to open up a welcoming spot for people to come in and enjoy and have a conversation about spirits, because I believe that spirits is something more. And so it's one of those where we both share a passion about specific type of whiskeys, spirits, beers, wines, and things of that nature, where we believe drinking less is honestly what the market should move towards, where drinking better though. So it's one of those where we're going to be opening up a very boutique shop. So all the standard things that you'll see in these MOUs are going to be, please don't sell, 50-cent shooters, don't sell $30, 29, 50 packs of beers and things of that nature, to really enable bad actors to, drink and drunken persons and things of that nature. So when you come into our shop, you're going to honestly see, I can't wait for everybody to check out our shop, because it's going to not look like a, package store. And it's one of those where we're going to focus on more premium spirits, premium wines, and, anything that honestly the community wants. Me and my business partner, Eli Ferrati, who is the bartender and son of Fiore Italia, who's also with Spenard. He couldn't make it today, but he is absolutely obsessed and passionate about whiskey like I am. And to that manner of just wanting people to try new spirits and things of that nature. So it's one of those where it was our dream to open up a package store so we can honestly have the try it before you buy it, and just, hey, maybe don't drink that High Life and Fireball, and maybe drink this one bottle that'll sit on your shelf for 10 years and you'll just enjoy it on milestone celebratory occasions and things of that nature. So a lot of this in the MOU is going to be just like here on the screen right here, any liquor product selling for less than $1.50. And I'll tell you, you will never see any sort of shooters at our shop. We won't have any of the plastics. I'm speaking with regards to, say, Monarch or anything like $10 bottles of vodka and things of that nature. That's not what we're about. And Mr. Faldeas, who's Milano's, we've spoken a lot about what the shop is going to be and what we want to do with the area and the crowd that we're going to have around there. So it's going to be completely different than your corner liquor shop, and that's honestly what I wanted to express truly. Margaret, question? So it's right next to Milano's Pizzeria. So it's on 36th and Spenard 36th. So it's gonna be right there. It's a football throw. It's right here. Yeah, right at this corner. Yeah, I almost was going to walk over here. So yeah, please.
So you for.
Correct. Correct.
Still be over one.
Correct. So all we did was take over the license. So the license got transferred. So no new liquor store, just operating it completely different. Any other questions? And I'm always open for a conversation, and we have a very nice espresso machine that's going in. So come over for coffee, and you don't need to buy anything. Just come over for a chat, and Meg, I will motion to do. Please.
The European government. Bears on.
Yeah, so this has been something we've been dealing with the MOA and just AMCO and things of that nature for quite some time now. And it's been about a year in the works. So finally, everything has happened, and I told Illy and Hubert and Mrs. Ferrati that this is what we are really passionate about. This is what we want, because you legally cannot buy from anything that's not a package store. And there's specific spirits. And when we go down to Kentucky and we want to show someone something new, like, hey, tequila is not just your, a $40, you're taking shots and things of that nature. It can be a sipper. And, that's why I love going to the bar over at Fiore and then introducing people, honestly, to new things. And like, oh, this is something that, my dream is to everybody have just 3 bottles at their house that they never drink, just on special occasions. And so it does allow us to leverage the patrons over at Fiore. To come on over, because like I said, is if you're spending anywhere around like $70-$80 on a bottle plus, I'm a firm believer of you should try before you buy. And I'm also very anti corner liquor shops in the sense of, yeah, come in, grab some cheap and get you to where you need to be. So we're not that kind of store. And as you know, my business partner, if you know if anybody's ever been to Fiore d'Italia, that we're going to be about that type of spirit and that type of market. And Meg, I won't motion to do anything because I don't know what I'm doing. So you tell me.
Thank you so much. Okay. And I will ask if we have a motion to move this decision topic forward. Sarah. Perfect. So Sarah first, and I saw a second from Matt, and then I'll clarify too, because I think it's been a little bit since we've voted on an MOU. When you're voting on an MOU, you're not necessarily like endorsing like the specific business or what would be the term? It's more you're agreeing to the memorandum of understanding, right? That we're both entering, both parties allocated and Spenard Community Council entering into this agreement. So wanted to clarify that. And I also meant to remind folks of our voting rules. So to be eligible to vote, you have to live or own a business in Spenard and have attended a meeting within the last 12 months. So we'll ask for a show of hands. Everyone in favor of this memorandum of understanding, please raise your hands and keep them high so we can count and double count. I see 18 and then a yes from online. That we saw. Okay, so I have a 19 in favor. Do we have any opposed? Was it? That was also approved. Okay, so then that 20 in favor. Okay, and then any opposed? Okay. All right, we're making it work, guys. Okay, so moving on, I didn't get a chance to check in, but do we have Jonathan Lang here Okay, wonderful. All right, so I will welcome Jonathan Lang up here for an info topic about a rezone, and I actually have, I'm gonna share my screen hopefully to include, this was what had been sent, right, the most recent. Okay, cool. Right. We have 10 minutes for that.
Thanks. Shouldn't be that long. Good evening. I'm Jonathan Lang. I'm a professional land surveyor, and I'm here on behalf of Baker and Associates attorneys. They're on Spenard Road, kind of across the street, or right next door to Taco King, at the corner of, you got it covered up, I think, Breezewood, is that what it is? And Spenard Road. And this is a vacation request. It's not a zoning variance. So currently, you can see the red line there. That's the property line. When Spenard Road was originally constructed, it was all the way over there. When it was reconstructed in the 80s, it was moved to its present location. So that's all municipal land in the front. In the late 90s, the Taco King property vacated all of the excess right-of-way in front of their property. And that's what we're intending to do with this. So you can see currently, the lighting in here isn't the best for this, but you can see all those trees. All of those are in the right-of-way. And so looking at the Spenard corridor plan, it says that this area should be businesses that front on Spenard Road. And what they're trying to do is, again, add what's essentially doubling the lot footage by reclaiming that right-of-way and making it part of that corner lot. So this is our community meeting for the project. And I'm here just to present the idea to you and answer any questions you have about it or any concerns.
Essentially, the Spenard Road improvement project that's going on, and what you, I know that right now they're doing the middle part, essentially right away. So the beauty already part of that. Oh, they're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do it.
So yeah, and to add to that, currently the Streets and Highways plan says that that's supposed to be 75 feet wide, and it's almost 150 feet wide there. So it's well in excess of municipal need. Are there any other questions? Going around the current circle. It's excess property that's not being used to its fullest. So as a benefit to the municipality, I would say it will slightly increase the tax base. But then it'll also take the maintenance of those trees and the landscaping there, which the municipality isn't actually actively maintaining, and it'll put that on the landowner. And one thing that I'd also like to add is that there aren't any current plans to expand the building that's there. This all came about because Mr. Banker tried to put in a sign, and somebody ratted him out to the right-of-way department and said, "Hey, you've got a sign in the right-of-way." And so he was like, "What do I do?" And he was counseled to vacate the right-of-way so he could put a sign out there. He's recently applied for a sign permit, and there's actually a sign that's being installed that is a permitted sign, but that was the impetus for this project. So did that answer your question?
I see that there's on the sidewalk. Is there any intention of being?
That's the current driveway that's there. Yes, that's the current driveway.
I live.
Okay, all right. I've been to the property and I've used it as a driveway, and I was told that that's how all the clients access the property.
When you say that's it right there, are you talking about on the left-hand side? Right.
This is the driveway right here, if you could see the
Are
cursor.
there printouts?
Yeah, I did bring a couple printouts. Pass these around. We'll look at more closely.
Here and.
So I'm supposed to take notes for the meeting and give those notes to municipality. Yes, ma'am?
So. Is there any,
So in property law, there's a common practice which is called reversionary rights. So if there was excess right of way in front of your property, you would have the right to that property if it was vacated. So other than the fees for doing the plat and the municipal review, there aren't any, they're not purchasing the property from the municipality because they have a right to get that, to reclaim that because it was originally part of the parent parcel. Does that make sense?
I was really close to there, and, okay, my first question is, were they compensated when, Spenard Road was realigned? The original owner said. In other words, like you're saying that's down right away, you're taking that. But I was around when Joe Murray made that flag lot, which was a big mistake, top of, because they say you should not have flag lots. And so that was the first mistake. This one here, they were compensated from it. It's not like they're clawing back what they had. They were compensated. I don't know what, like Karen's saying, why the city shouldn't be compensated if they're taking that.
So again, they would have a right to reclaim that property if it's not being used.
But I'm saying
And they wouldn't,
owners.
it was the original Spenard Road. So the road moved and the right of way remained behind.
But you're saying that it was part of the original parcel.
Correct.
Well, how would the road be in the middle of Spenard Road?
Before Spenard Road was made.
Yeah, the original subdivision, that's where they built Spenard Road. When they came in and realigned Spenard, they moved Spenard Road, but they didn't give that right of way back to the adjacent property.
Well, I know where that is. There was a lot of snow this year. It was nice to have snow storage there. And, you know, I don't want that now taken away because that's no longer. I mean, I don't have the right to tell, I mean, they have a lot of my property. I don't have the right to tell them why not payment, so you're no longer feeding your snow. I don't have that right, but you're going to say, well, that's all ours now, so you can't put snow on it.
Well, again, nothing on the ground is going to change right away. So they're just trying to reclaim this property so that they can take care of it.
Problem is, it's like the Taco King, they did that flag lot for the gondola, the knife shop. Then it became, and it was a smaller sign, now it's a big Taco King sign. You could move that sign, put right out there, have it illuminated, flashing, and everything else, and we wouldn't be able to say anything about it, it's like, it's on our property. Because that could change in the future.
Mhm.
And that's the concern I have, because we've been working on Spenard Road, like Lindsay said, right now, the road work that they're talking about. But what we've also been talking about, putting monuments all the way down to International, the same way that they mark in the northern parts of the road. If we take that out, it's one of the few places that have enough room for a monument. Because there's nothing on the corner of International and Spenard, that's all paved. And where your property is in property. That is the first break, because everything else has paved all the way down. So it's precluding our being able to do the monument. They do it all the way down.
Okay, this is like an art installation type of monument? Okay.
Sorry, I think
So, problem saying, you know, he's putting it.
Just the property. Yes. Okay,
Basically, maintains it up.
right.
But the only person that maintain that up, focus was stated. For my friends.
Hmm. Hmm.
everything, but, building, company was out. Very moving, some of the owners out there. But the good about it, again. It's neighborhood. Neighbors. About 1,000. Years. Most is here, the sign going up. Water.
Right.
He's on the.
I'm gonna go with this gentleman here because he had his hand raised.
Yes, I am concerned because this is a very nicely landscaped lawn. Which is very nice. You get it. Client is for free, almost their size, and you can building on it, tear out all landscape in the city from putting that snow, sidewalk on property, fence there. Even, I mean, it could change dramatically what's going on in that area.
So if snow storage right there is a concern, there are mechanisms to where that can be addressed. We can dedicate a snow storage easement right there next to the sidewalk. And then that gives the city the right to store the snow there. Well, if the vacation goes forward, then we could dedicate an easement for the snow storage.
Real quick before we go on that other question, I want to make sure we don't have someone from code. I didn't see that, but just want to make sure we're staying on track. Okay, we go here.
Okay, I just want to say I really like this commercial plan and the idea of having business like right on sidewalks and the road and an aging urban environment, and so I would love it if something nice was built right next to the sidewalk there that land is actually used where the urban land is, especially if it allowed as amenities, those other spots are. So I'm all for it.
You have a question?
What are the dimensions of that lawn?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
What do you think it is, you survey it?
It's about 120 by 60 for the original lot. And it's adding about that much to the front. I think that's about 50 feet out to the road. So it is close to doubling the lot size.
So you're saying
120 by, yeah, probably 90. Yes, I mean, not for free. There's still about 10 grand worth of fees that he's gonna have to pay to the city for the plating action, and then he's gonna have to pay us for our survey work as well. It's right. Yes, ma'am.
First is, I actually really like I really like. You know, in that corridor, there's actually quite a bit of landscaping,
Mhm.
and it's nice. It's nice to have that there. There's a hotel that's right across the street. There's a lot of people that walk around there because of the hotel. And I don't know, I like the way it is. But my question is, what is it zoned right now, and is there a plan to achieve?
Off the top of my head, I do not know the zoning, but there's no plan to change it.
So why would they already got the permit to put the sign up? That's in process.
That's not my call. That's the property owner's choice.
Well, I thought that's where it is.
Yes, ma'am.
We go Bill and then.
So when I look at this right now, the city's not making any money off this. They're not taking care of it. The guy's taking care of it. If you get it back, it's gonna pay the city so much money. It goes onto the property tax, gives the city more money. I don't see why everybody is so upset with the city claiming money for a piece of property. They're not forming strange, especially since they seem to want money for this better.
I guess I like the idea of having some parcel of land available for the art, the signage that we intend to put. Palm tree and have, you know, some have location or. Who said, yes, we'll put it here and. That's not. So I don't know if there's any, obviously you can't, it's lot size in blue, but if there was a way to move it back a little bit so there's dedicated space for the community project that we want to do, and that is important, because while I agree that businesses along the corridor are great. Thing is, it's only as good as the owner takes care of it, because there are plenty of businesses along Spenard corridor and on the alley next to one that are terrible neighbors. And it is, you know, it's only as good as what this person right now wants to do. And then after that, it becomes.
I didn't do anything.
And so I do think, yeah, maybe if there's a way to
Yes, I do.
scale that, but especially if he doesn't plan to do anything right now, it's not already there, maybe it's a nice community, like we still get some landscaping, get some of the parts. Some parts of that, pays tax. Again, I know you can hear but that.
Well, I'm pretty sure the property's E3, because for 20 years, which is supposed to be a business, but people were living in it. I know because it modified times, and it was not operating as a business. So now it's working as a commercial property. But it's always been maintained. I mean, I don't know who's maintaining it. I never saw the grass down to what several of my neighbors grass. It's always maintained. The thing is, it's like Tommy's saying, when Copper Queen came in, they took out the little Anchorage night sign. Now they have a huge sign that's flashing and all this kind of stuff. It's a lot different look. The guy, I will say, did a beautiful restoration job to the property. It was lovely. He painted it nicely and paved and everything, good on him. But I'm just very, very cautious that we're doing something. Because when they, like I said, when they put that Copper Queen thing, they did it as a favor to the owner of the night shop, and then he sold it to Copper Queen. So we have no control over future. That's what the problem is, not written in stone. And then they decide, because it is B3, that I know you want to get the line, but right now, really is lovely. It's really a shame. Very nice. But it's just that a lot of Spenard is really unattractive, Spenard Road is really unattractive to look at. And now that little swath of green is really nice to look at. And I just have concerns about the kind of sign we put up, the
Just a question, and then are we voting on this tonight, or is this?
This is just for information. I was going to ask for a resolution in support.
Okay, well, so I want to implement things from a forward plan, and like, that having a future business or maybe multi building facing Spenard is what we want to see all along the corridor. And in this section, in the southern part of Spenard, there are little parklets kind of spread throughout that section. That was part of the design, when they did the redevelopment. And those could be potential locations for this monument. We don't actually have any locations identified for conversation on that. So I wouldn't want to hold this to as this. That's the whole point of having the corridor plan is important. the type of vision, big picture vision, but once you do it, then it's not like everything. So I kind of lean more towards, supporting a change for this because the right of way at 150 or something like that. Over here, it's like 80+ feet right of way, but they're only going to develop it to the 65 feet. So this would leave a whole bunch of space on parcels of the that the owner can't actually have control over. It causes a lot of uncertainty. But Coconut has to invest in that right of way zone to that limit. Are not being, it's not going to help. So it gets really squishy when you have the property you can't actually invest there, but is invested in that area. So those are just some of the considerations I would have. See some future forward for what.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you, and I would urge you to support the project. The next step is we're required to have the community meeting before we submit anything to the municipality. So I'll write up the notes on the meeting tonight. I will actually send them to Meg to review to make sure that I got it right. That's one of the things that's important to me, is to make sure that I'm representing what you said correctly. After I get her feedback, then we'll be submitting the plat. So probably by the end of this week. So you have time to look at my notes. So yeah, then that starts the clock ticking. I don't know when the next platting cutoff is, but it would probably be heard in August. It'll go to the platting board. They'll review it based on the staff comments. It can be approved then, and then the plat would probably be recorded by the end of the year. But again, the owner doesn't foresee making any changes right away, and the sign's already being installed. So, yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And I'm gonna go and all the notes that I get there, I'll send those out to the exec board for you guys to help me review to make sure those notes are accurate. All right, so next up, we have Tani to give an update with the Spenard beautification project. Sorry for not quite sure what is exactly happening, but it seems like the Zoom is still rolling, right? Folks online are able to see. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen here. And, all right, thank you, Tani.
Hello. Okay. My partner in crime isn't here yet, but that's okay. I will give everyone an overview. So I'm founder and chairperson of the Spenard Beautification Committee. And I don't know if anybody got flyers in the mail during citywide cleanup from RMG. They did their own little Spenard community cleanup, and they had a trash can in their lot. They're near Piedmont West. So I ended up connecting with Shauna, who created that event, and was like, I had no idea you guys were doing a Spenard cleanup. And she was like, I had no idea there was a cleanup committee. So it was a whole fun interaction. And we met last week for lunch, and just really, I gave her the overview of the grand dream of cleaning up Spenard, and not cleaning it up so much as beautifying it. So everybody who lives in this neighborhood knows we have a lot of people who are mixed income, mixed age, diversity, abilities. And so some of our neighbors don't have the ability to go and bring trash to the dump. They may not be able to afford trash services in our area. Or there are just people who have a lot of stuff. And so what Shauna and I are doing now that we have essentially a community member and a business member is we're going to plan a Spenard beautification project for the end of September. So it'll be the last weekend in September. We will have big trash bins, like the roll-up kind, in the parking lot. And we will be handing out flyers and sending out notices to neighbors and asking for folks to sign up if they don't have the ability to bring trash to us. We want them to let us know if they need trash services and delivery. And the idea is to really kind of get volunteers who maybe have vehicles or trailers and the ability to help clean up our neighborhood in a meaningful way. And so this is a dream of mine that I've been wanting for many years. And so Shauna and I are looking for a couple volunteers who are interested in helping bring this to real life in September. And so it'll be kind of a summer planning project. We're just, we just need a couple of minded folks who are interested in making this come true. So if you are, let me know after, yes. Well, if you have questions about the event, I guess you can ask me now because we have time. But it's the goal is to make our neighborhoods beautiful for everyone.
We'll say genius idea, instead of putting the little book, advertising or they got one so many fans by doing that. So I know that was their attention. Beautiful because it makes everybody's house. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna work with community partners to potentially have like maybe the Habitat for Humanity folks there, or the folks who do community events and collect hazmat or batteries and things like that. So we don't have all of the details obviously ironed out, but the goal is really to make this a community-wide event. And so Shauna was very excited to find the in to this because she did, she was like, I didn't put a lot of effort. I just thought we should have one. And yeah, you're right. They wanted to bring knowledge that they have a real estate agency there and that they're good neighbors as well. So are there other questions or yes?
So if someone can't commit to volunteering tonight, but they go home, they check their calendar, they're like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
What should I put in minutes for how to contact?
You can put my email address, TaniSacricci@gmail.com. And yeah, so it'll be the last weekend in September. I think it's like September 29th and then October. It's like merges into October. And we will be at the September Community Council meeting, making the announcements and handing out sign-up sheets for actual weekend of volunteers and anybody who maybe needs help collecting trash. And the goal is I'm looking if anybody has contacts at Solid Waste Services. We want to see if maybe they could even do a special collection for folks who may not have the ability to move trash by just letting them put it out on one, with regular collection days. So we have some really big ideas and we just need a little bit of help. So that's it. Okay. Yes.
Oh, sorry. I love this. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's wonderful.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
That recycling bin and the trash bin.
Yeah.
The first trash bin. New stuff along the street. I did the cleanup this year, a week later. And I don't want the, Alaska waste to stick in my neighbors. So it shouldn't be. Because they can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
But it does feel like there's something, we should find a way to work with waste services to make it more and more. Or
You're speaking.
because,
Yes.
because it's not just a once a year issue.
Yeah, and actually, I wish that, I know our assembly rep has left, but that is exactly what I've brought, honestly, to our assembly members. Well, when it was Austin, Quinn Davidson, and Cameron. And I asked, is there a program through the municipality that they can subsidize waste services for folks if you have income verification, if you can prove that you don't make enough money? Because I do believe that our city everybody should have the right to throw their trash away, because we see what happens when people don't have access to waste removal services. Some people put it in a big tarp, put it in the back of their truck, and then drag it to an alley in the middle of the night and dump it in an alley. Some people dump it in other apartment owners. They have their own trash bins. and they'll dump it in that, filling it up, and then suddenly that apartment owner has to pay an extra amount of money to get it removed. And then you have, and it's not just individuals. A part of this goal is also, I'd really love at the end of the time to come up with a good neighbor agreement and something we can present to the community council that we would love businesses and community members to sign up on. You know, the Walgreens on Northern Lights and Minnesota is like notorious for having their trash cans overflowed, the lid's not on, and the ravens love it. It is like a raven roost party over there. And so this kind of goes hand in hand with these MOUs with, you know, liquor stores and all of these places, is that we want neighbors to be good people who work in this community. So many of them, they spend 40% of the time here, 30% just during business hours. Many of them go to their neighborhoods, or many of them who own businesses may not even live in the neighborhood. So it's important to us that everybody who spends time in our neighborhood are good community members. So I have asked the city about, our assembly members, about doing a program like that. I've also brought that up to Alaska Waste and Blue Arctic Waste, because I talk about trash a lot. And so I'm on I'm an ambassador actually for the citywide cleanup for the Chamber of Commerce. So it is something that I would love to see happen. I think the question is if it came from more people, or if maybe we tried to work out a pilot program here in Spenard, if that's something that our committee, you know, was able to kind of come up with an idea as we work through this over the summer. I think asking for a pilot program to say, hey, this is a problem. Let's see what it would look like if we could find a solution, because I do think if we can have people appropriately get rid of their trash, we reduce the amount of trash that's in there for us to clean up. And animals don't go in it, kids don't go in it, you know, and it's not just people experiencing homelessness, it's our neighbors, it's just all sorts of people who are contributing to the trash issue. So it definitely is a community-wide issue, and it has to be a community-wide solution.
I'll back up what you were saying. We have the same thing where the recycling is always full and the cardboard might be pushing the lid up a bit. But if you are able to have a community that has affordable separation of the things that actually are recycled and recyclable and valuable that way, and then your gross smelling garbage, the lid stays down because it's not overflowing and the ravens aren't getting into it. Like, you know, you mentioned specifically recycling. And I think it's those Amazon boxes. Yeah, you can move those off in the recycling bin.
Yeah.
And presumably they're worth something, you know, cellulose actually is a good recyclable as opposed to plastic.
You don't necessarily have to have a second.
I was just thinking of organic, like, green grass looking brown leaves and chipper could be something that simple. We do have like that. Our property down railroad. You have to find a place where we don't. Our clippings, we're all as neighbors, don't put trash there, plastic bag, it's all just free. But it's a central place that we can put our stuff at. Little spots along those ways, probably wouldn't take much in terms of maintaining that. And that's, see, the big garbage can or the bags full of feed, people are trying to take it to the dump. You know, if they're in the composting material, better have a larger and doing lasagna bags with byproducts and stuff that's going to be that you can take organic material or just for even food scraps and stuff like that. Real basic stuff. It seems too simple to be like a sexy solution.
Well, and I think as easy as it is, I think, so I went to University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. So that's where I went to college. So I learned all about the green movement there. You know, my family's from the East Coast and they pay, you know, they have one of the highest tax rates. But one of the things that they do is they have trash service and recycling for everyone. Now, do they need to pick up recycling twice a week and trash twice a week? No, I don't think so. But everybody can throw out everything. And you know what they don't have? Trash on the streets. It's rare when there's trash, like piles or people dumping things, because everybody has that opportunity. I know that it seems easy to like bring your yard scraps and things, but mobility and we have a very diverse neighborhood where people walk and bike. And so some people don't have the ability to either physically or because of transportation. And so that's really the goal of this. And honestly, between Shauna and I, and perhaps members of this community council, we would love to do this quarterly, you know, where it's a quarterly community helping neighbors helping neighbors, like, you know, and then if we just need the first start, we got to get this out there. And then maybe, you know, I've always imagined it as like a volunteer trash army in Spenard, like, but it's really a volunteer beautification army. Like, how can we help this neighborhoods be beautiful? And I think the final arm of that is really asking our business friends and neighbors to also look after property and look after their own trash and help out when they can, right? Because the whole, oh, I'm not touching that trash even though it's on my property, I didn't put it there, it's not a helpful frame of mind. It's, you know, so that's sort of the dream, the vision. And I think it sounds like people are interested in even making this an even bigger thing. And I think using Spenard as a pilot project would be a really cool idea too. And there's a lot of grant money out there for this as well, this type of work.
Also bike trailers too, big bike trailers and get on bike trailers, bikers.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of a fun moment.
Yeah.
Go around with the cool bikes, load it all up, you know, it's fun. Kind of smallish.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Listen, my community project started out with me and my little red trash wagon and my golden. So it starts small and we can keep getting a little bit bigger and bigger. So I'll wait after, and if you want to let me know, and then it'll be in the minutes as well. And then in September, we'll be at the September Community Council meeting, giving you all the fun details.
Julie, do we have a treasurer's report tonight or?
No. We don't have any changes.
Thank you, Julie. All right, wonderful. All right, so now we are moving into our community announcement section. I'm excited to have time for this one tonight. We're not rushing to adjourn to get out of the room. So thanks folks for keeping on track of time. So this is where folks can introduce themselves, share announcements. We ask that folks keep these to about 2 minutes max so that we have time for other voices. I know I got one request in advance. I don't know if you know, but I can take you, Peggy, if you'd like. Okay, great. And then I don't know if folks want to come up or they're sure.
Yes, so I talked about boundary committee that has been meeting regarding citywide boundaries for the councils. And I talked to the president of the Trinity Community Council, and a really generous offer, I think, that she made is that we share Spenard Beach Park. It would be really nice. It used to be in Spenard, and then the Muni changed it. They didn't request it, but they changed it. So it was no longer in Spenard, which is really weird. Have Spenard Beach Park no longer in Spenard. There's been a tremendous amount of work in the last few years, not this year, but in the past 3 years, on Spenard Beach Park to make it more of a park again, all through matching grants through the Park Foundation and community involvement, being a lot of work done. And I give full credit to the Training Council. So I thought that we lost an opportunity because I was told by city planning that we had to have our comments in for the summertime. That I did hear from today from Kathy that she talked to Tom Davis, leading this for the planning department, that we will have an opportunity to make a comment by the fall. So we should discuss the executive committee so that we can bring it back to council in September. A resolution they did pass it and turn in about sharing the batteries. Tom Davis did say that it's possible, it's never been done before, but it's possible to do that. So I hope that we can all support that. Really nice to have that opportunity to be a part of this, or be part of it, and you know, I really give them full credit for everything. So that's.
Thank you for that update, Peggy, and serving on that committee. Okay, up next, we have Representative Elise Galvin, if you wanted to approach.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here tonight and able to listen in on the community council. I have 4 community councils in my district, and I typically attend them when I can. And in this case, when I was in Juneau, I wasn't able to be online because I think you were in a different facility. So this was really wonderful to be here tonight. I am not here to give you an update. That was not asked of me. I asked to be here tonight so that I can do something a little different, which is to present something. One of the joys of being able to serve as your representative is to have a moment where we can highlight something really great happening in our community, or someone who's done some wonderful work for our communities. And when I was told that this is an opportunity for me to be able to call out someone within our community, someone came to mind right away. And so I'd like to read, if I may, and I hope this will be less than 2 minutes. And for those of you who would like an update, by the way, I did have a sign up here for I have a sign up for if you want to have a sense of what's happening with the budget, capital projects, all those sorts of things, lots going on, bills that have passed or in the hopper around anti-discrimination and lots of different things that you might be interested in. You are more than welcome to get that information. And I also passed out and have available by the coffee an invite, because we have a meetup every single week in person, again, where I can answer. But tonight is special. Tonight is about Lindsay Hadgett. And so I think you can understand why I'm here. The members of the 33rd Alaska State Legislature joined family and friends in honoring Lindsay Hadgett for her many years of service to the Anchorage community. Lindsay has been a part of the Anchorage community since 2010. Her passion for helping her community be safe, welcoming, and accessible to all has been highly visible. Lindsay, I'm going to get tearful just knowing how wonderful this is. Her husband, Jed, and their 4-legged family member, Ginkgo, have made Midtown Anchorage their home. A few of Lindsay's leadership roles in the community include Spenard Community Council President, 5 Anchorage board member, Choosing Our Roots host, and Anchorage Youth Advisory Commission Adult Advisor. Anchorage has benefited from her recruitment, organizing, and community development experience that is gained from her education with her Bachelor of Science in Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences from the University of Illinois, and her Master's in Community Development Policy and Practice from University of New Hampshire. Lindsay has volunteered her talents with many areas of the community, including being part of the urban planning process. She has served in leadership in her community council, like we mentioned, and attended other community councils throughout the city. And I've seen this, it's been remarkable, to engage others in finding solutions for Alaskans without housing. When COVID-19 hit Alaska, she introduced people to Anchor Gardens as a way of helping to build connections and community in what would be years of online interaction after that. She has more recently become engaged with finding effective ways to address housing shortage, as well as building community with our growing houseless population. Her passion, ability to lead by example, and grit to continue her formal education to align with her interests in helping create resources for our community has been invaluable. Her proactive approach to situations has been instrumental in volunteer recruitment for some of her community projects. The members of the 33rd Alaska State Legislature commend the quality of advocacy and community involvement of Lindsay Hadjick and thank her for her years of service and her determination. Sorry, not one more here. To make the world around her a better place for generations to come. Thank you, Lindsay. And this is signed by several, it's signed by Kathy Tilton, who is the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, myself, LV Gray Jackson, our Senator, and Zach Fields as well as a co-sponsor. So again, thank you very much, Lindsay. If you could come around. Oh, sure, we can do pictures. I just want to make sure people online can see your face and not just mine. Oh, thank you. See everyone. There we go. Okay, come on up here then. Thank you. Wait, Tasha, come on up. Tasha's on my staff and she's a very close working member also with We need the good moments of joy, right?
Wonderful. All right. I know that's a hard one to follow, but welcome other community announcements that we have. I saw Phil. All right, and Lindsay.
Yes. So the Spenard Community Council, our quarter task force, has been downstairs to talk about the Spenard Road project. We're looking at, of course, improving the design for the road, but we're also getting into the next phases of the project for landscaping and all of the different features we want to see on the roadway. So if you're interested and want to be part of our task force, which is essentially our transportation committee, let me know. Or you can reach out to our team. They presented last month. So we want to keep engaged on that. The fun thing, Spenard Market is happening. Neighbors at the Spenard Market. We're just wanting to bring people out. And then as far as community gardens go, Spenard Community Garden is walk away. It's continuing to have like weekly meetups, so you can go and help in there every Sunday from 11 to 5. And then we're not far from the Midtown Garden Club, which is on Benson and Chicago, essentially. They also have garden parties there every Sunday. And then they do lots of workshops up there. So it's a big partnership, very close to those efforts, and then the gardens and other lots of different workshops. So I hope that you come out and you don't have to commit to have like a garden bed. You can come and help out, be there for the harvest. Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. Not seeing any other announcements. Do we have a motion to adjourn perfectly on time? Oh, perfect. Lindsay moves. The second, Tawny seconds. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will not meet in July and August. We will start meeting again in September. Executive board will still meet though, so if you can all continue to monitor the email. So feel free to reach out if you have ideas or questions or suggestions. Otherwise, have a good night and a great summer.
I have a question. Are we gonna be meeting that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The question came about meeting at the Spenard Rec. Yes, we will continue to meet at the rec, except for the idea that we will continue, well, the plan was to have at least 2 hybrid meetings a year. So we'll let folks know hopefully well in advance when that next one would be. All right. Good night, everyone.